Let me check some stuff. All right, just making sure I'm all set up and that Twitch is going and YouTube is going. So I've been kind of working on trying to get my side project deployed using a variety of Amazon infrastructure as code tools. Mainly I've been using Terraform for deploying out like the database, the SES stuff, the configuration for SES, Terraform for the CloudFront distribution, the S3 buckets and stuff like that. And then I'm also using Serverless, the Serverless framework for deploying out my API. What's up, y'all? Welcome, Pazul, in Prix, in Isa, and playing from WoW. Welcome to the stream. So I don't know, most of this content, like I don't really make on my channel, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is probably going to be over some people's heads, but I think it might be cool to get exposure to it. So what I've been working on is I'm trying to basically, when I do a push to main, I want it to run some code, right? So I'm using GitHub Actions, which is a service you can use for continuous integration and deployments, I guess. Let me go ahead and see what's my zoom right now. I want to make sure I'm zoomed in enough for you all. Nemish, welcome from India. What's up, David? Let's go. Let me drink some water real quick. All right. So I got this this YAML file, right? This is how you set up your GitHub Actions in the YAML file. And you have a .github folder, and inside that folder you have workflows, and every workflow you have different YAMLs that describe some things that need to happen when you push code or make a pull request, right? So this one, when you push something to the main branch, I want it to basically kick off some type of deployment, and I'm trying to get it to run Terraform inside my Docker container that I have kind of set up. So before I actually like get the GitHub action deployed, because the feedback loop is kind of slow, like you have to kick off a deploy or merge some code and then go to GitHub Actions, watch it build. It fails after 5 minutes, and you go back and do this. I rather make sure that this thing works 100% in my Docker container so that I don't have to like waste time with that whole process. So what I'm doing is I have a Docker container, or Docker file that kind of describes what needs to be installed, like Terraform, what version of Terraform, which is 1.3.7 I'm using, the AWS CLI maybe, which I don't know if I have installed here. I might need to install that. I don't know. You know, I got like Vim, wget, curl, unzip, everything that I need to basically have anyone deploy this application, and it's all kind of locked down to specific versions. Well, actually, I don't have them locked down in that file, but I plan to. What is up, Mindslayer? So let's just close this side tab. We don't really need it. And what I'm trying to do is when the GitHub action kicks off, the first thing it does is it checks out my repo. So this is a special like action that GitHub provides where it basically just checks out your repo, and then that's going to be used inside the runner itself. And then the next step is basically going to build my Docker container, right? So Docker build T, the T stands for tag, local, and just use the context that is currently in that workspace. So all the files that I have in the workspace, just go ahead and use them. And then if this works, I don't know if it'll work, but I basically want to run inside that container. I want to run that local container, and I'm going to mount my current working directory to the home/app directory. And then I want to run this command where basically it should run Terraform init, Terraform apply, and then get that all deployed to my environment. So someone says, as a new dev, I'm always afraid to try AWS because I'm just expecting to forget something and get billed $100,000. And I do believe there's ways to set like billing limits and alerts like Brix is saying, but I think the safest thing is just go and check your billing dashboard every day. Just go look at it, make it like remind yourself to go see and make sure you don't have some rogue EC2 instance set up that you forgot to tear down. Or just be, be cognizant. Like if you're working on stuff, make sure you tear it down if you're like just playing around. And also never leak your keys, because the moment you accidentally commit your GitHub or your AWS keys to a GitHub repo and that repo is public, there's bots that'll crawl your repo, get your keys, and spin up the largest EC2 instances and charge your account for like $4,000 within an hour or less. So be very careful when you deal with the keys. And I do think there's an actual command line tool you can install, which I need to install, which will not let you commit if it detects AWS keys inside your files. I think it's called like secrets. It might be like a Husky hook or something. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So I built the container, I think. Let me just run this one more time just to make sure it's all built. And a lot of this DevOps stuff is a lot of watching stuff run, watching stuff build, waiting on stuff, which is unfortunate, but that's just like part of the process. And there's ways you can like work around this and speed it up, but like right now it's doing an npm install inside the Docker container so that I can actually run my commands inside that container. And I want to make sure I don't have anything that might be potentially wrong. As long as you don't change any of these files, then it won't have to rerun yarn. Right? So the moment I go into one of these packages and I change the package JSON and like update a version, it has to reinstall everything inside that container. You can also do the, the volume mounts and like the shared mounting between your host and the container. But if you do that, depending on the host laptop you're on, like I'm an M1 Mac, sometimes if you have packages that need binaries, those binaries will not work inside the Docker container, right? So this is using Debian or CentOS or Ubuntu. It might not be compatible with the operating system that you're currently using, which is why I'm just doing a run yarn inside the container itself, so I don't have to worry about that pain, I guess. So I guess what I'll do is while stuff is running, I'll just go and check chat, because I do believe I'm getting some messages. Although I don't have the right one set up. So let me pop out the chat real quick. Go here. Make sure that's set up. And yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't even have like the notifications set up for Amazon, because I just know that the services I'm using don't cost money, right? DynamoDB costs nothing almost. Lambda costs nothing. CloudFront costs very little unless you get real traffic. Now, if you start spinning up EC2 instances, that's where you need to be very cognizant of like making sure you tear down your stuff, because you can spend a lot of money real quick if you just forget. Someone asked, what is Terraform? So Terraform is a tool created by HashiCorp, which allows you to write files. And those files describe what resources to spin up in Amazon. So for example, if I go to this DynamoTF, this is saying that I want to spin up a Dynamo table with this name, with a bunch of other configuration, and basically I run a Terraform apply that looks through all my Terraform scripts that are in this directory, and that's going to go ahead and automatically spin all the resources up in Amazon. Okay, so what a lot of people do when they're beginning with Amazon tooling is they go into the UI and they'll click around. They'll go like create a new thing and they'll click, 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 which is fine if you're learning. But if you're working on an actual like large scale project or like an enterprise project, typically you have a bunch of different environments. You might have like a dev environment, a staging environment, a test environment, a prod environment. You don't want to be going around and clicking around all these different things that create different resources for every environment, right? So you want to write your infrastructure as code, which you can use with Terraform. There's other tools out there. There's like Amazon SDK. There's something called SST. There's CloudFormation templates if you want to bother with that stuff. But yeah, so you can imagine how much work it is when you have a larger enterprise that has tons of different services just to get your application working. and you need to replicate that exact same environment multiple times for your different tiers. And yeah, that's why you want to use Terraform or some type of infrastructure as code. Serverless is another thing I'm using in this project, which again, you define a serverless YAML file, and you say like, okay, I want to make a Lambda function, and this is the file that it needs to load in. So there's a file called source index handler right here. You tell it what path you want it to accept your requests. This is just using REST. You give it some environment variables like this. You give it some custom domain information. And basically when I deploy this, it's going to spin up an API, wrap that in a Lambda, and then I have access to basically hit that Lambda with REST calls. So this is your infrastructure as code for the backend. And there's different frameworks and libraries you can use to kind of get this all set up. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. I know I talked a while about that, but I think kind of important to talk about. How often do you use ChatGPT? Every day. I try to use it at work, and it's just not that useful yet. Sometimes it answers some questions and it gives me some good results. But if you're looking for like accurate code snippets, ChatGPT is not what you want to use, right? It's given me so many old snippets of code with like deprecated libraries and versions that like I might as well just do a quick Stack Overflow and find like an example. That's been my experience with it. But if you're using it to learn something new, I think it's pretty cool. What's up, Jules from New Zealand? What is the best way to speed up npm build? I guess it depends. I mean, it depends on what you're building, right? What does npm build do? Are you using Next? Are you using Nuxt? Are you using Vue? Are you using single page application? Using Astro? It depends on the underlying thing that you're building. Some libraries and frameworks use something faster than others. Do orgs build and tear down resources between uses to save money? If you're doing like a little experiment, then yeah. But usually you have these environments sitting around so that like you'll have a dev environment where all your devs will push code, and you can go and log into your dev environment and make sure everything seems good, or you can have smoke tests run against that environment. Or you could have a test environment where you have like a dedicated QA team come in and they check your test environment whenever you do new releases and make sure that all seems good. Maybe you have a demo environment where you actually have clients who need to come in and try using the application, or you have like a user testing environment where you have like UX, get real users to use your new features, and you can get feedback that way. And you can tear it down and bring it back up depending on how many resources you have and what Amazon resources you're using, because sometimes it takes a long time to tear everything down and everything back up. If you're using something like Docker, you could probably easily do that, but it depends on what you're using behind the scenes. Sometimes it's easier to just leave everything running. It'll cost more money, but it saves stuff in the long run because like you just have an environment ready to go. What is the reason for using Yarn? I don't really know. I haven't used PNPM. The reason I use Yarn is because it seems like their support for workspaces is actually a little bit better. But that's about it. I haven't had a chance to use PNPM yet. People keep talking about it. I guess it's good. Let me know if I should try it out, Colin. This whole email project seems like a DevOps explanation, and I learned a lot of new things, so thanks. Yeah, honestly, like this project was done like days ago, right? I had Next.js, I deployed the Vercel, I was done. Didn't need to worry about it. But I figured, it's like I don't want to be tied down to Vercel, and like I feel like it'd be good content to basically take a simple application and kind of show you how you could potentially make it extra complex for that whole like enterprise feel. And I just like messing with like DevOps, honestly. I know most of my content is like React stuff, which is why like you can see there's like no one even on my stream because it's not React. But it's fine. I think DevOps is fun, and like learning about infrastructure as code and Amazon is pretty fun. Here's your question about Rust. I mean, what do you recommend for a beginning developer to learn Vue or React? I think Vue is easier to learn. Personally, Vue is a lot more concise and easy to digest, but React probably has more jobs, so that's kind of something you got to figure out for yourself. I haven't really used Ruby on Rails, so I have no thoughts on it. I have not used Rustlang, so I have no thoughts on it. Is there somewhere you link full VODs for streams? What's a VOD? Video of the day? I mean, you can go to my channel and you can go click on the lives, and it has all my historic lives of what I've been working on. Let's just go and see. I answered a lot of questions. Let's see if we can actually make some progress on this. I'm just hoping I can get like one thing done tonight. So I built a container, and what I was trying to do is like, can I get Terraform to run from inside this container? So I'm going to go ahead and paste in this command, which I believe I need to put local here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this Docker command. And I'm still debating if I should even run this command inside the Docker container or just like install Terraform and all the other binaries on the GitHub Actions. It'd be much easier to not have to like do this stuff. But again, consistency is nice. All right, so let's run this. Unable to find image sh latest. Okay, so I am... what am I doing? Let me do local here. Let's see if this works. Invalid syntax. I don't know if I even remember how to do this. Here's my entry point, my command. Here's my local. I'm going to go to how to run a Docker command using entry point. This is something I should know, but oh, thank you for the follow. I should probably turn on my sound so I know when people follow me. What's up, Wheezy? Wizzy. And this could also be a question for Chat GPT, maybe. Entry point, Ubuntu command. Everything after the image name, the command, and pass to the entry point when using the command instruction is exactly as if you were executing this. Does my Docker file even have a command? I don't think it does. All right, so let's try this. I'm going to try grabbing this whole thing, and I'm going to put it at the end. See what happens. Cannot find module. Thank you, WePricks, for the follow. All right, so cannot find module home app CD. So I think what's happening here is that it thinks that this is go back. On a different Stack Overflow. Oh dang, a lot of comments, huh? I'm gonna try to stay focused. Let's see. Wait, isn't it just like sh hyphen hi? I don't know. I've done this before. I've already forgotten how you do it, so let's just keep trying commands until it works, right? Okay, it's doing something. My memory works better than I thought it would. No credentials found. Okay, so this is good. This gives me confidence that like this is actually doing kind of what we want. What I'm gonna do is, I hope I don't leak my credentials on this stream, because if I do, I'm just gonna have to go delete them. But I got this script called load environment, and I can pass it my prod environment stuff. So like I said, env.prod. You know, I don't need, no, hold on. I think my credentials are stored somewhere else. They're on my profile. So I think I need to just pass those through, which I would probably have to say environment. And then I will have to do this equals this. There's got to be an easier way to do this, but honestly, I'm just trying to get it working first. And I wish I could put these on new lines. This is kind of ugly. But if I run the same command, it should make some progress. No valid credential sources for S3 backend found. Am I doing this wrong? Yeah, I mean, there's a extension that hides it if I were to open up the .env file, but like, there's a chance I could print them out down here. There's a chance I could like have them somewhere else. So I don't know if that extension would actually do what I want. Let's go and figure out why it doesn't seem to be passing my environment variables, because they should be on my profile, I believe. Let's see, pass env to Docker. Yeah, it's -e. -e, export. I think it could also be because my credentials are inside my Amazon profile. I don't have my credentials inside my .env file. I actually have them on my Amazon profile. And I don't even remember. There's stuff I've done so many times and I just forget how to do it. Like, I don't know why I forget this stuff. Let me go ahead and just open up a terminal on a different window. I'm going to check something real quick. Let's go to my terminal here. Do I have iTerm set up? Okay, I don't. Let's just go to terminal. I'll put this on another screen. You guys can't see. I'm going to try doing something. How to get credentials from, how to source my AWS secret keys from profile. Get access key figure, passing access key and secret. I mean, I know how to do it. I know a solution for doing it. I just didn't want to potentially screw this up. But, you know, whatever. I'm going to basically, in my other screen, oh wait, hold on a second. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing, but just give me 1 second. See, access EID. Hope there's an actual like professional DevOps person watching me and just laughing at how hard I'm making this, because I'm making this probably more difficult than it needs to be. Okay, so I put those in a file somewhere on my computer. I'm just going to source them down in my terminal. I'm just going to go source them from this AWS env. That shouldn't print it out. That's cool. And then I'm going to run that same command, and that's going to pass those from my shell into the Docker container, and it should probably get further, I hope. $20 super chat. I need a $50 super chat to tell you what theme I'm using. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm using the bearded theme, and it's called Bearded Icons. Let me show you. Go here, you go to Bearded. Those two. I like them. They have different colors too. They have like blue, purple, like a reddish. Definitely check out that theme. It's really nice. Yeah, we do need a chatbot that says theme, because I get asked this question a lot. And in my normal comments, I get asked this question. And I even put it in my description at one point, but I still got asked the question. So I just removed everything from my descriptions because I'm going to have to answer it anyway. But it's a valid question. I mean, it's a cool theme. I want you all to be able to enjoy it too. All right, so it is doing stuff. Terraform is running through my Terraform folder, and it's comparing. There's like an S3 bucket where it's storing all my Terraform state. It's basically grabbing the state and comparing it against the current Amazon state and seeing like, hey, do we need to change anything? Like, did he add some new resources to his Terraform file? And if he did, it goes ahead and it changes stuff. So right now it changed something. I don't know why it changed this. I guess my index file changed a little bit, which is fine. But I think we're good. I think if I commit this, this should work in GitHub Actions. Now, the reason I'm confident is because this GitHub action is using the same Docker container that I literally just did on my terminal. So if this doesn't work in GitHub Actions, it's probably because I'm not passing a key correctly or passing some configuration. And I will say, if maybe we can actually split this up. I think we can do this to make it a little bit cleaner, because it's just like, I hate when stuff had to scroll. Like, I hate that. That looks fine, I guess. I also don't even know if I need this exit thing here, because, I mean, it should already exit with the code. I don't think we need that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this. Let's go ahead and just go ahead and do a Terraform lock. I don't think I want to push that. I also don't know why it created that. I think it's something that I used a while back, but everything should be remote. I don't know. I don't think I need to deploy that. Make sure there's no like secret information inside this thing. Terraform lock HCL. Should I commit my Terraform lock HCL file? Should ideally be committed to your repository in your version control system to ensure that the same provider versions. Okay, I do want that. Okay. All right, well, let's just commit it then. I'll go ahead and commit this too. And I'm going to go ahead and say like trying to get. I've also been trying to do on my commits, do like commit prefixes. So like this is a chore, and I'll say GitHub Actions. And then I'll say like trying to get Terraform running in CI. Go ahead and commit that and sync it up. I will check chat in 2 seconds. I just want to make sure like this is Gucci before we move on. Is that how you say it? Gucci? Or is it Gucci? Goosey? I should not say terms I don't know how to say. All right, let's go back over here, and I'm going to go to the main branch. And I want to show you. So like if you see this little yellow, orange circle, you click it, and you can see right now it's trying to do that Terraform infrastructure deploy, right? So it's running that Docker compose. Although I think we should rename this a little bit. Let's just go through our file real quick and make sure we didn't screw anything up. So deploy infra production, run Docker build. I just want to make sure these names actually make sense, because I hate to come back here and it's like saying something else. Run Terraform. Looks good. So this, unfortunately, there's so many packages I have in this project because I'm using a mono repo, and like I'm doing a yarn install from the top level of my repo. So it's installing like everything I need. It's installing like next, whatever dependencies next needs. So it does take some time. It's installing Terraform. It's installing, like right now it's doing Terraform. But let's go to chat. Let's see. Twitch. Got no one on Twitch, huh? I don't even know why I bother streaming on Twitch. The discoverability on Twitch is so hard. Like people just go and watch the people who already exist on Twitch, and they don't watch new people. All right, let's go back. Let's see. Zaf says, do you think TRPC is a good choice when you have a designated backend and front-end team? I don't think so. Is your backend team using TypeScript? Then in that case, it might be useful to do. But there's ways to get like type safety in your front end by using like Open API and doing some type of like Oh, thanks for the follow. Who's that? Laven? I didn't see what that was, but welcome to the stream. Yeah, I mean, you can make it work, right? I think it's fine. Like if you want your coupling between your front and your back end, if you want that, and the TRPC is fine, I think. In my project, I decided to get rid of the coupling, mainly because I was trying to deploy and import the app router types from this monorepo, and it just like kept giving me issues. And then finally, I'm just like, screw this. I'm just gonna do REST because I know how to get this working in REST. See, great, killing it, man. Great job. Thanks, Manny. Oh, I got it. Sorry, never use YouTube for streams, LOL, but your videos are pure gold. Keep up the great work. Thank you for the kind words. I will keep on making videos. Can you explain relationship with all you're doing, Terraform or with Docker? Yeah, I could probably give an overview. Let me just try to get through some of these comments because there's like a bunch. Oscar, how's it going? It's going pretty good. I just finished my first MERN stack project. I made a grocery list app, kind of like a simple to-do app. What should I learn or try to do next? Did you get it deployed somewhere? I would at least try to get it deployed to like Vercel or Netlify or something, just to make sure you kind of like can say you actually have a link that you can give people. And then I would try to make a bigger application. Get something that's actually, I would just add more features. Take your application, just keep on finding features to add to it. Like, does it have authentication? Can different users log in and get their different grocery lists like stored? Can you add a feature where basically you can set a reminder and that sends off an email to you to go buy some groceries because you're getting low on something, right? Find ways to keep on adding to it, because that's when you start crossing the threshold of like a beginner project to like, okay, this is getting serious and I'm actually like learning the nitty gritties of like building a larger scale project. I hope I didn't miss too much. I don't know. Probably not. I just got one thing running which failed. So we'll have to go figure that out. Zaf, do you think it's a requirement as a web dev to learn about sysadmin stuff like deployment? Or would most companies have a team to handle this? I think the smaller the team, the more you're going to have to know about deployments, right? Either that or you're going to have to be okay with just deploying to Netlify and not really understanding how some of this stuff works. The larger the team, usually like more enterprise, what I've seen is you always have people who are like dedicated to like building their own CI/CD pipeline. They have their own strange requirements and they have to know how to like use infrastructure as code to kind of deploy everything out. Let's see. I'm curious, when will you make a video about full stack Next.js plus CI/CD? So here's something that I notice a lot. People seem to ask for like full stack everything. I think what would be better is, this is something you can learn separately. CI/CD you can learn separately. You can learn how to deploy an app without having to be Next 13. You could literally just get like an HTML file and you can start diving into how do I get the HTML file to deploy automatically when I push to the main branch of my GitHub repo. You don't need these together. Unless you're just asking for like, how do you deploy a Next 13 app, then I would just use an existing service that provides like a free hosting plan. Focus on one thing at a time. I don't think there's a real need to like learn them together. But to answer your question, I will show you how to deploy a Next 13 app soon. I will work on that. I'm going to make a tutorial about that and probably just deploy it to Amplify or Netlify or whatever. Chill. We need a chat bot. Oh, these are from so long ago. Let's see. Tom Does Tech. Hey, welcome. Hopefully you're still watching, but if not, go check out Tom Does Tech. He has a YouTube channel. Let's see if we can find him. Been making some videos. He likes TypeScript and stuff. Check him out. A little shout out for him. Let's see, Dimentra Beats. I remember you saying that you were a backend dev using AWS at your work. Do you not deploy them projects yourself, or is that a separate person's job? I'm not a backend dev. I'm a full stack dev. So me and everyone else on the team is responsible for building the UI stuff, building the API, setting up the Terraform, getting it all deployed. Everyone on the team is responsible for it. We have like 10 engineers on the team. There's no separation between like, oh, that's the back end team, that's the front end team. We are all responsible for getting this stuff deployed. And we do a lot of like pair and mob programming to basically share the knowledge. Like some people are obviously going to know more about stuff, right? Some people know more about the infrastructure as code stuff. For example, I know a lot about the Terraform and the CI/CD pipeline, and just how like to get that stuff all set up and deployed. But we try to actually work with others, and we all just work on it together to get features done. But right now, this pipeline for work has been done for a while, so like we don't really have to touch it much. Do you not deploy them projects yourself? Yeah, we deployed the projects ourselves. There's a caveat though, is that we work with a client and we don't have access to prod. Okay, so we basically write all the code, and then the client checks out our branch and they click the deploy button. But everything from like all the deployment is all automated, so the client doesn't really have to do much of any work other than check stuff off and click on the deploy button. So yeah, that's a separate team who actually deploys the prod and kind of monitors prod. We just work as a team and to get deployments out to dev, staging, test, and other environments. Isn't deploy usually automated via CI/CD pipeline? Yes. Well, actually, I shouldn't say yes. Some teams actually SSH in the boxes and try to like pull in changes and restart the box. So every team and every project is different. The larger and more like professional the project is, then yeah, you'd have everything fully automated. Cool. Sorry, I guess my sound cut off for a second for some reason, but hopefully you guys can still hear me. And yeah, I mean, like, Diamantra beats WoW, a lot more complicated than what I assumed it would be. I never had. It depends on where you're working, right? If you're working on a small startup with like 2 or 3 people, and like that's your dev team, you have like 3 people, then you're more than likely just going to use Netlify, right? You're going to build your next application, your API and your front end is going to be coupled together. You're just going to deploy that out. And then you might use a bunch of other third-party services for like dealing with emails or for dealing with other stuff. As your company and team gets bigger, typically I feel like teams gravitate towards Azure or Amazon because it's like one place that basically has all of your resources. There's not like 30 different places you have to log in to like manage your application, and everything can be deployed with a click of a button onto these cloud providers. And that's really beneficial, especially when you have people who come to the project and leave after 6 months, and you have people coming in and out of the project. It's really good to have like standards and make sure your stuff can be deployed really easily. Why should we use Terraform in our projects? How many years experience do you have? I think I've been working professionally for 10 years now. I think it's almost been 10 years. I graduated college 2013. I think I got a job around 2013. So yeah, it's been like 10 years. Friday night, this is a true love for the craft. It's a true obsession. A bad obsession, but I'm teaching people, and I think it's helping, so. Hold on. Anyway. Yeah, let's see. I didn't mean to skip your question. Why should we use Terraform in your project? Basically, if you ever go through the Amazon dashboard and you have to click around and like manually create all of these instances by hand, you want to use Terraform to do that automatically, so you don't have to do any type of click ops. Follow one of your StarCraft 2 build order videos to deploy a media tracker for personal learning Next.js project the railway. Really easy to follow, so thanks. Well, I'm glad you liked that video. Okay, let's go back to the code real quick. I was hoping I can get this done on the stream, but okay, I've seen this error before. So you can't on on GitHub Actions, you can't use this IT. Man, I keep you ever eat food and you just like keep burping after you eat? You can't stop. It's intense right now. Got some Asian food killing me. All right, let's just go ahead and commit this. I just got rid of that -IT, which is TTY. I forget what that stands for. It's like interactivity. I don't know. Someone else can figure that out. I learned at one point. So I'll say chore GitHub Actions. And I'm going to say remove IT. And now we wait another 3, 4, 5 minutes for this stuff to build. Wish I could get this going faster, but maybe I should look through the code, make sure I'm wasting more time. Is there anything else I'm missing here? Anything else? Let's get this thing set up. I think it'd be so cool to work at GitHub Actions, like to work at GitHub and be able to like say that you helped build this thing, or Circle CI, or some of these other like CI services. Just so crazy. The amount of servers that are probably running in like a server farm to build and run all this code, and how it's all automated. It's just like fascinating to me. All right, anything we're missing here? I'm studying C language at school now, and it's quite complicated. Yeah, C is pretty complicated, and I don't like using C or C++. The fact that it's like so hard to make a string and to like do stuff with that string. It's cool to learn and understand like how strings are really just arrays of like characters, and those characters are really just like numeric representations. It's cool to learn that stuff, but honestly, I just want to say like my variable equals a string and I'm done. Does GitHub Actions cost money? It's free if you have a public repo. So for public repos, it's free. So if you ever want to play around with it, go check it out. Yeah, working on CI is pretty cool stuff. Like automating all this stuff, deploying machines automatically is really fun. Azure needs someone to run on their servers. Someone to run on their servers. Not sure what that means. Are you saying that they need to get more customers? Let's see. Do you have to create cluster for CI/CD, Circle CI, or is it automated and runs on its own servers? For Circle CI, by the way, I'm not using Circle CI right here. I'm using GitHub Actions. For Circle CI, no, they provide you runners, and you can choose your different runners. You can do like small, medium, large, extra large, and they just charge you more depending on the size of the runner. GitHub Actions, you have less flexibility, but you do have the ability to basically do self-hosted runners. So you can spin up like an EC2 instance that has like 16 cores, and you run a script that GitHub Action provides you, and it converts that EC2 instance to a custom runner, so that when you basically run your command, you can actually specify here, like it runs on my Ubuntu, my super big box. Like you can make an actual custom label for your self-hosted runner, and then when you push off your change, you'll see that it actually runs in that EC2 instance. It's really cool, and it's super easy to get set up. So if you ever have something that needs like a lot of computation, you can just dynamically spin up that EC2 instance, obviously with some extra work and more like heavy thinking of how to do it. But there's examples out there. But you can dynamically spin up that huge EC2 instance, have it clone your stuff, run whatever tests or computation you need, and then tear down the instance when it's done. And GitHub Actions is all like hooked into that. We got a green checkbox. Woohoo! So what I have it set up to do is after Terraform finishes running successfully, it kicks off some downstream processes. So if I go back, you'll see that it should be running deploy API, which it failed. That sucks. And it deploy, How did both of these fail? I had these working. The workflow must contain at least one job with no dependencies. The workflow is not valid. So somehow I messed up this workflow. And I don't remember what I did to mess it up. Here's a cool trick. Everyone pay attention if you're kind of new to VS Code. I don't even have GitLens installed. Okay, so there's an extension called GitLens, which you should probably have installed. Like, you don't want to work without GitLens. Super useful tool. And when you install it, you get a GitLens thing down here that you can use. Which I'm going to close out of that. Okay, what is all this stuff? Restore home and view state. Okay, how do I okay, I want to get this thing out of here. I guess by default, they probably put it here. I think this might be my GitLens stuff. Yeah, okay. Get started walkthrough. Anyway, what was I saying? So install this thing, and then look here in the top right, which my head is actually blocking. So let me see if I can just move my head real quick. You see these things right here? You guys might know this already, but if you're using Git like version control, you click on this little arrow, and it tells you the diff. I actually just learned this a couple days at work from a coworker. I never knew that was there. Then again, I never really looked too hard. I'm the type of person who will overlook buttons until someone like shows me what the button does. But you can keep on clicking back. I can keep on going back in time, so I can go back and see, okay, what did I change here that potentially broke this? Go back again. Did I change anything? I mean, I added this, needs deploy infra. And I think the issue is that, like, you might not be able to do like this needs command unless the job exists in this file as well. So that could be my issue. I might have to actually refactor my GitHub Actions a little bit. So let's see. GitHub Actions. Can I use the need property for other YAML files? They might have to all live in the same YAML, which means I'll have to have my deploy all live in the same YAML file. And let me move my head back before I forget it's there. On push created, you can do labels, filters, blah blah blah, pull requests. You know, let's just go ahead and say needs job 1, needs job 3. Identify any job that must complete successfully before this job will run. It can be a string or array of strings. If the job fails, all jobs need skipped until the combination of job. Okay, I'm just gonna assume that they have to be in the same file. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rename this to deploy and just kind of refactor some stuff. Why is deploy? Is that like a special keyword? Deploy app? Maybe it deploys a special YAML file. The kids are slamming the doors downstairs and like distracting me. Okay, so I want to put all these in one file. So I'm going to go ahead and take the jobs here for infra. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And I'm going to put it inside a deploy app here. And go ahead and make sure that looks good. And then also for deploy API, because we have deploy UI, I'll say deploy API. And I'm going to grab this. And I'll put it down. Just put it here. How about that? Deploy it all. That's what I'm going to name that thing. I'm going to delete the deploy API. I'm going to delete the deploy infra. And now what happens is if I got this correct, it's going to first run deploy infra, which is going to run the Terraform and get that all deployed out. And technically, I don't need to even like do a lot of this stuff. Like I could potentially have these just be steps that happen directly after this. It'd probably be a lot faster. You know, let's just try this out. Let's just see what happens. I think there's ways we can make this better, but baby steps. Let's just make a change, see if it works. If it does, we'll think about other ways to maybe make it better. So combining, I'll say chore, GitHub Actions, combine all YAML to a single deploy file. Probably good, right? Now, before we wait 5 minutes for this stuff to finish, let's just double check. Deploy infra runs on this. Deploy API needs deploy infra. Deploy UI needs deploy infra. So both of these are going to run in parallel, basically. So when this thing finishes, it'll kick off both of these and it'll deploy the API and the UI together, basically, and kind of speed up the process. But right now, the process is still going to be slow because, again, it has to like do a yarn install at the start of these workflows. And I have so many node modules that it just takes so long. So I need to like kind of think about, is there a better way to kind of do this? I think I just said that already. So all right, let's go back to chat while this thing deploys. Let's see if it's running. Oh, look at that. So we get like a cool little dependency graph when you put them all in the same file. And like you can see that it does Terraform first, which will deploy like the database, the SES configuration, the CloudFront distribution, the S3 bucket, and then it deploys the API, which is basically just creates a Lambda, pushes my code to it. Deploy UI basically just uploads file to an S3 bucket, and that's it. That's my deployment process. Now let's go back to chat real quick. Have you made a video on how to deploy a website on a VPS? I'm sure I have. Personally, I would not deploy to a VPS just because there's so much overhead of like you'd have to go to the VPS, SSH into it. You probably have to set up some type of like Nginx or Apache proxy pass setup, and then you have to deploy your actual service. Then you got to make sure that your service restarts when it fails on accident. Then you got to make sure you have a way to easily like collect and monitor the production logs. But I'm sorry, I went off on a side tangent. But I think I might have a video. There's like one called like deploying a MERN stack. You might want to check that one out. It's like the most recent one I did, like a MERN stack thing, where I SSH into a VPS and I actually like deploy. You know, let me give you a link. Let me be a good YouTuber. Let me go to my own channel. And let me help you out. So I'm going to go to videos here, and I think I have one. This one, copy. If you already own the VPS, I mean, this is kind of a sponsored video where I you know, for like Hostinger, but you can go ahead and like kind of watch through that. And I think near the very end, I do the deployment section, and I SSH into a VPS. I set up, what is it called? Caddy. There's something called Caddy you can use that basically sets up your HTTPS certificates and does the proxy passing for you. So I set that up, and then I also deploy my node application. I think I have it restart with PM2. And then I point a domain to it. So you might want to check out the very, very end of that. I believe there's chapters. So go to the very last chapter, and I think it should help you out. And that was a response to who? That was a response to Tula. Got stretch for a second. All right. Nor UI Amin. Hello. When I install Twilly conservations npm package and after I do npm start, I get fatal errors. Ineffective mark compacts near heap limit allocation fail JavaScript heap out of memory. I don't know how to help you with that. I never used this package before. I would maybe make sure you're on the right packages of like Node. You have enough memory in your machine. Like maybe you just don't have enough memory in your machine or something, so it crashes. You have like 4 gigs and maybe it needs like 6. I don't know, but I never used this package before, so I can't really help you, unfortunately. GitLens is not paid. There are paid features of it. Like you can upgrade to like get some special features of it and stuff. But I don't think it's paid because I just installed it. Let's see. I have it point out new features to customers so they use them so you're not alone. Okay. Die mantra beats. Just chuck the whole YAML file in GPT and as if that's a good idea. I did not even think about that. I hope this actually gives us something cool. The problem with Git Chat GPT is they train the data set on like stuff that's like 2021 or something. And so a lot of the conventions that GitHub Actions probably are going to change and the results will not be accurate. I've seen that so many times at work where I ask ChatGPT to do something and it gives me like bad code because it's just like old libraries and old interfaces. And I'm like, dude, like this tool is just hyped up a little too much. And like it's cool. It's definitely cool, but it is hyped up quite a bit. Let's just go ahead and say, can you make this code better? I don't know what to ask. How do you also like put code? Is it just backticks? Let's see what it gives us. Depends on the specific requirements and use case, but some suggestions to make the code better is use ID for each step. This makes it easier to reference the step in the future. Use env for secret variables. Use env to set environment variables as recommended. Instead of directly injecting them into the run command. Where do I do that? Oh, I think I probably do it here. Wait, where do I inject stuff into my run command? Oh, here? Yeah, I don't need that. Thank you, ChatGPT. I don't think I need, well, I think you do need that because it doesn't know how to get your environment variables. Unless it's talking about something else. Which it might be. Let's see. Set env instead of run for setting environment variables. This makes it easier to understand what is being set and where, rather than mixing it up with other commands in the same step. Use env variables for constants instead of hard coding values in the code. Use environment variables. An updated version. Oh wow. Let's see what they gave us. Let me finish reading through these so I can forget them in 5 minutes. Use a consistent pattern for step names. Using a consistent pattern for step names can make it easier to understand the workflow. For example, setup environment, install dependencies, deploy as step name. Reuse steps. If a step is common to multiple jobs, consider reusing it by creating a separate step that can be used across all jobs. An updated version of the code using these suggestions. Well, let's see what this gave us. think it's missing something. Deploy infra, deploy API. It doesn't even have to deploy UI code. It deleted it. Okay, let's not copy it because it's obviously missing some solutions. They put the env up here. Okay, that's pretty cool. Is that what I want to do though? Yeah, that might be what I want to do. That looks nice. You just put it up above the on. Oh yeah, let me try that. I'll say continue. Thank you for that suggestion. I always forget that the tool's out there. You know what? Let me take back everything I said. This is actually useful. It looked through my code. It told me my code sucks, and it gave me a better output. So that's actually super beneficial. Okay, I take back everything I just said. Take my money. I'm going to sign up for this thing. Deploy API failed. Man, deploy API not found. Okay, because I deleted some stuff. So this is a good example as to why. Why'd I delete these things? I guess I don't want that one. I'm debating if I even want scripts in the top level, if I do or if I don't. But I deleted that, and now my CI/CD pipeline is failing, which is cool. I mean, the thing should fail when you just delete things. But let's also try to like clean this up a little bit. Is there anything in chat I need to like go back and check real quick? I thought Amplify auto deploy apps when you push to GitHub. Yeah, Amplify has a feature where you basically point it at your Git repo and it'll deploy it all for you. And it does basically the exact same stuff that I'm doing manually. Okay. But I would go Google around for Amplify. A lot of people say they do not like Amplify and that it has so many missing features and the documentation sucks and this, that, and the other. So kind of makes me concerned using it. But again, it will deploy your next 13 app and it's super, super easy to get it deployed. So check it out. You just point it at the repo and then like it's going to deploy your application. You probably have to set up like a custom domain to it. But I like doing things the complex way because I like wasting time. But it's also good training if you ever want to get into like DevOps and just understand like how to configure this stuff under the hood. Because what happens when you use like these abstractions like Netlify or Vercel or Amplify is that you're going to hit like edge cases for your application sometimes, and like you cannot solve them using the existing solution you're doing. And as your project grows, you end up just saying like, I can't use this tool anymore. I got to find something else. Like that's my argument. I don't really have good examples of that because I just don't remember. But sometimes you run into friction using these things and you're like, man, I'd rather just use Terraform and just have it automatically deploy the stuff that I want. I guess a good example of like, okay, so like let's say you decide to deploy your app to Vercel. There's like I think it's like a 10-second timeout on your API endpoints. Let's say a feature comes in that says, your client says, I need you to generate me a PDF of all the data in the database for this particular user. You're like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, let's make an API endpoint to do that. You start coding it up. It takes 15 seconds to run. So now Vercel isn't a good solution. You have to go and upgrade to get the more timeout. I think it's like 10 seconds for the free tier, but then if you upgrade, you get like up to 5 minutes or something. But they're like, you're going to run into this stuff all the time with these like existing solutions because they put limits on everything. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at, right? If you don't use like Amplify, because I do believe Amplify hides away how all this stuff is deployed. Like they don't show you that they're using Lambda behind the scenes. They don't show you they're using CloudFormation. They just show you that your app is like running in their Amplify console. So I don't know if you can go in and tweak the Lambdas and say, well, I want this Lambda to have a timeout of 15 minutes, or I want this Lambda to have 4 gigabytes of RAM because I'm doing a bunch of PDF generation, or I'm doing signal processing in it or something. And that's when you start hitting these like weird edge cases for your business use cases that your abstraction that you pick just doesn't work. Have you always worked on companies' projects, or have you ever tried to run your big project like the startup? I've never tried doing a startup. I like job security, to be honest. I like knowing my paycheck comes every 2 weeks. It would be cool to be an entrepreneur, and to really try building a product and selling it. That's my end game goal. Like I want to be able to call myself like a business owner who made a SaaS product and like I have like people paying me for the product. But in reality, like I'm not going to leave my job security to potentially go homeless because my startup only gets like 2 people paying $5 a month. But it's cool. I mean, it's a cool idea. What's up, Lucas Lab? Lucas Lab. This sounds like a legit YouTube channel. Let me check this out real quick. Cool. He's got some videos. Yeah, Nginx is good. This might be unrelatable to the current talk, but how do you usually go about estimating tasks? I'm having a different time estimating tasks when my project manager asks me to do. I just pick a random number. If you do story pointing, I look at the description of the story. I'm not even kidding. I look at the description of the story, and the more bullet points and the more text in the story, I just round up. So if it's like kind of short, maybe it's a 2 or a 3. If there's more text, a 5 or an 8. A lot of text and like people talk a long time for the story, 13. Just go out of 13. Now, in terms of time estimates, I would not give time estimates. I'll say it's done when it's done. So I don't know. Until you've solved the problem in the past, you don't know how long it's going to take you, right? If you never built a house, you can't estimate how long the house is going to take to build. But if you built 15 houses, you can give a good estimate. So if someone asks you to build something like, I need this feature that sends out emails to this subset of people, you've never done that before, how are you going to give an estimate for that? All right, I think he talks about the subject in his daily life. Zaf. On the topic of VPSs, surprisingly, that's all I've ever used deploying Node apps, but it's always so much work. So I've been looking for some alternatives. Lately, any recommendations? I like using serverless and Lambda. The one thing I don't like about deploying Node apps is that you end up having to like do a lot of work, like you said. You have to make sure that you have some type of system that'll restart your Node app if it crashes. You have to have some type of system that will automatically update the underlying operating system in all of its like secure packages and stuff to make sure that it's up to date and secure, because updates need to happen. And then you need to find a way to like collect all the logs and send them somewhere so that you're not SSHing to a box and looking at like output logs. And then you need to rotate those logs, because if you don't, the logs will just fill up the box's disk space and break your box. So it's like a ton of extra work to deploy stuff on VPSs and bare metal. Versus if you just deploy like a mono Lambda, they give you the logging for you. They give you the scaling for you. They give you the automatic restarts. If your one request has like a really fatal error and just breaks your entire application, it's just that one request that fails in Lambda. Versus if you have a node endpoint that for some reason just does a hard crash on your service, everyone who's connected to your node application at that point in time, basically just their progress is lost. So it's so high risk to like have these little applications running, especially with something with Node, where like sometimes you'll throw an error and the error just like bubbles up and just destroys your whole process, and then PM2 just restarts your server. Like that's not a proper solution. You should not allow your Node processes to get killed. And Node doesn't have great ways to actually like prevent that. Something like Go might be more resilient to errors if you're like good at catching your errors and like writing them, but I don't know. I don't think Lambda is probably like the coolest thing I've used, honestly. GitLens has made blaming people at work an absolute breeze. Would welcome. It makes a good one thing I know about GitLens is like I'll be looking at code and I'm like, dude, who wrote this code? This code is so hard to read. And I go back and I see it was me who wrote the code. I'm like, dude, I hate GitLens. Just makes you regret your developer experiences and decisions. Just finished my, hold on, did I push these code? Hold on a second. Package.json, why did this? Ugh, I didn't even do this. I'll say chore adding back deploy command. Let me ask you, so when I'm streaming, do you guys like when I kind of answer comments? Or do you all like me actually like watching me work and do stuff? Or just like kind of just continue to doing the way I'm doing it, where I jump back and forth? Oh, the person who asked about their project, I would say keep on adding more features to your to-do list app. Like add a feature to send out notifications when you're low on stuff to your phone. Find a way to do that. Maybe send out emails, send out SNS notifications, or SMS notifications. Find ways to export your grocery list and have a nice printable PDF. Like just keep adding stuff to this app. Don't jump over to a new application and rebuild the same stuff you just did, right? You just now scratch the surface of how do I do CRUD operations. Now start scratching the surface of how do I actually like build onto this and then figure out a way to deploy it somewhere. That's what I would say, Oscar. Hopefully you didn't leave the stream again when I gave you the second round of advice. These are from so far back. How long are these? Like, these are probably 10 minutes ago. I'm so slow at answering comments. I need to stop talking so much. You have to tell it, please continue. Yep, okay. Bookmark for later. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Hello, SaaS company needs to sell products for greater than 2K average a month. A customer to have a sales force. Sell a product for greater than 2,000 average a month. That's amazing advice that caused me a lot of issues at my first job for not using it. I don't even know what I was saying, but I'm glad that was good advice that I said. I like serverless because it takes less hardware. I use serverless with blockchain. Yeah, and it's cheaper. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some hidden costs in serverless that they don't tell you about, and when you see your bill, you'll find out real quick what the hidden costs are. But usually it's cheaper than having like a dedicated box, especially if you're doing a startup, right? I don't want to pay $5 a month. Let's be honest, that's like super cheap. But if I could pay $0 a month or $5 a month for a site that only one person hits a day, for example, my newsletter application, how much traffic am I getting there? Probably 1 or 2 people a day. That's it. So it's kind of like know the tools and know when to use the certain tools. Backing up to GitHub, calling a repo, things like that. Yes, both. Yes, doing great. I like both. Answer us or I steal your soul. Dang. Please don't. Don't steal my soul. This is the first time tuning in. I like what you like. You're entertaining both ways. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all for saying both. I like both. I like the on-the-job insights. Thanks. I picked Next.js recently to learn serverless, and it's been pretty nice so far. It's not perfect for all use cases, WebSocket servers, but for Express-style APIs, it's great. Yeah, I mean, like, Next is great for a small-scale project that doesn't have these use cases that pop up. And I think Next will work with WebSockets. But again, this is like one of those things where it's like, do I really want to figure out how to make sure my WebSockets are set up properly with my serverless app, especially when they start deploying your serverless behind the scenes to like multiple machines when they scale up behind a load balancer, and you need to make sure that users still connect to the same like server. So I would just be like, okay, well, there's already WebSocket solutions out there. There's like, I don't even know what's out there. I use Amazon serverless. Amazon's API Gateway v2 has WebSockets. That's what we do at work. But I think there's other like options out there that provide you some type of communication between your servers and your clients. The advice was don't estimate time if you never worked or built. Yeah. Cool. If you use blockchain, you can verify each process so one part doesn't crash all or organize it in a parallel circuit. I'm not big into blockchain, to be honest, but I'm glad you seem to like blockchain. That's cool. I'm new to Next, but not new to React. I use the after building a POS. I want to learn how to create tests. I don't know where to start. I want to learn how to create tests. I would look into reading about Jest first and just learn how to write some unit tests, and then also look into Cypress, and you can write some cool end-to-end tests. All right. So it's deploying the API right now. Now the thing is like, okay, this is all done. So everything's deployed out. So now I think I fully set it up so that when I merge to main, it should deploy everything fine. And then I will see changes here. It's a little slow. Let's see how long this thing took. It took 5 minutes to do that. So a little bit slow compared to other sites. But again, I got more flexibility because I'm not like too coupled to anything, in my opinion. Node 12 actions are deprecated. Where am I using Node 12 actions? Oh, checkout? You know, I want to go back and like, oh, continue. It just gave me. I'll come back off stream and do this stuff. I'm kind of losing steam, and I just want to. Can you guys go to this link real quick? So what I've noticed is that people who don't live in the U.S. or like the North America region, when they go to my app, like you don't have to sign up for this newsletter. I just want you to tell me if you load this app, is all the CSS broken? Because there's people who, for some reason, when they go to this, the CSS is all messed up. And I don't know why. So it's weird. I'm going to go to CloudFront real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and just try to invalidate the cache. And this could take up to 15 minutes, so like you probably won't see. So this is another good example as to why you probably should just use an existing service like Netlify or Vercel instead of trying to build your own, because you're going to do a bunch of extra work to deploy a little static site that has 2 pages and it doesn't even load the CSS properly. And then you got to spend a whole day figuring out why is the CSS not loading for people who seem to live in Europe. And I kind of know what the problem is because someone helped me out, but if you guys open up your network tab, you need to configure your build scripts in order to fix inline CSS styles. Anyway, open up your network tab, and an issue that we pointed out earlier from my Discord, which by the way, feel free to join my Discord. The link's in the description if you want to talk to me directly or just find a place to hang out. Here's my little plug. We were noticing that a lot of the meme types for these things were not coming back for some users, right? So like this is supposed to have a meme type of JavaScript, I believe. Yeah, content type text JavaScript. But a lot of these files were coming back as like HTML for all of these. So for anyone here, load up your network tab, go to this URL, click refresh. Does it say like text for all these? Yeah, and I think the let me delete this. The issue actually the devs. Can you explain what you mean by that? The build is broken. You talk about the next build? Mine says script. At least it was in my case. What's really confusing about that though is that it works fine for me. Like you can literally see this working fine on my East Coast stuff. But it seems like every user who's not on the East Coast or like not in the US or Canada, like their stuff doesn't work. Where is there anyone watching the stream right now who can actually see this app fine? npm run build. Okay, the devs, let me look into that. Maybe I forgot to run npm run build. So here, this is where I deploy the UI. I install Yarn. I set up my API endpoint. And then I do a Yarn workspace, newsletter UI build, which if I go to UI package JSON, I have a build script which runs next build and next export. And when I run that, that creates an out folder, which has all my next code. And then if I were to HTTP server that, like locally, let me just show you this, port 5566 or something. I'm going to go to UI out. Yeah, I need to install a VPN because I guarantee you if I install the VPN and I logged into like Europe, it'd probably be broken for me too. And here's what it looks like locally, right? So the actual files that I'm uploading to S3 work fine. So I think it's a CloudFront issue, the caching issue. Hunter. So Hunter, do you live in the US? And it works for you in the US? So these are the things you have to deal with on like on the job stuff. Like you think you're doing something super simple and like, oh, I'm just going to deploy to CloudFront. I'm going to invalidate the cache, which is this still invalidating? It's still invalidating. This might take 10 minutes or so. But that's supposed to go through and just like make sure you guys are getting all the right stuff. Works in Chicago. Yes, I'm in the US. Yeah. You serve this on Node? The devs. So I'm pretty sure I'm building it correctly because it works. Like the application works for people in the US. The issue is with CloudFront, and I'm gonna go double check that. I'm gonna say AWS CloudFront UI broken in Europe, but works in US. Let me see if ChatGPT can help me. Why is my UI deployed to AWS CloudFront UI broken for my users in Europe and India, but works in US and Canada? Let's see if this can tell me. The users in Europe and India might be facing higher latency compared to the users in the US and Canada. Slower. No, that's not it. Content delivery network cache. If you're using a CDN, which I am, to distribute your content, the cache version of your UI might not be propagated to all edge locations yet. Which is probably what's happening, although I don't know why it's not propagating the code correctly to all. Origin server response time. The origin server where UI is hosted might be slow to respond, causing slow load times for users in Europe and India. Let me, I got another thing you guys can check. Go ahead. If you are a person who lives in Europe or India and the app is broken for you, I'm going to give you the direct URL to my CloudFront distribution. Click that and tell me if it works, because that should connect you to, well, actually, no, I don't know if that's going to work either. What I could also do, let's do some live debugging right now. Yeah, I think that will be broken. I didn't think about something that's, I don't know why I thought that would be fixed. That's the same URL that my domain goes to. It's just a different name. So newsletter web app. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a static website. Oh, is it already there? Let's see. Static website hosting enabled, bucket host. Website. When you configure your bucket as a static host, website is available. I probably have to like set up cores or set up permissions. In the sources tab, next static CSS, the file isn't an actual CSS file, it's HTML. Anyway, all public access is off. Block all public access. Wait, hold on a second. Block all public access is off. I have allow get object. Principal object, of course. Bucket policy. Object ownership. Can you create? I'm not using EC2. I'm using Lambda. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some examples, which I forget where they put those. I think you have to go here and go to policy examples. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on, I just want to give everyone access to the actual underlying bucket. Bucket policy examples. I think I could just be able to delete some stuff. Principal. Okay, let's just say S3 bucket policy. Everyone can do git request. Oh, that takes me to the same website. Go back. This is what I want. Why was that not on the actual, is that not on the page? The bucket policy examples? Why would that not be there? I guess if I was a good dev, I'd read through all this stuff and like know it, but oh, maybe you have to go all the way restrict to IP. Anyway, I got the policy I need. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paste that policy in. I'm gonna cache this because I don't know if I need it. Another good thing about Terraform is I can go through here and start deleting stuff and changing stuff, and when I run Terraform again, it's gonna revert everything back to the exact same state that it was before. So if I give this access to my bucket here, do this. I'm running out of steam, y'all. I'm at the end of this stream soon. All right, so the bucket is publicly accessible now. I go here and I go, where's the URL? Okay, let's try this. Yeah, it's just, this is kind of like the pain of DevOps, which is why people use existing services, because like you got to have someone who's actually like semi-decent at doing this stuff and knows what they're doing, or else you could spend days, if not weeks, trying to set all this stuff up. Okay, so that link works. So that's the link I gave you that goes to the S3 bucket. That's like a direct connection to the hosted site on the bucket. Now this won't work. Like I think if you were to try to actually register, this would probably throw a CORS error because the backend is expecting my real domain. So I think if I do this, it'll just throw a CORS error. Yep. So the app is not fully working because the domain is not correct. But I think that's just it's more of me highlighting the fact that CloudFront is not propagating the DNS as fast as I thought it would, which doesn't make sense because I invalidated the cache manually. So I'm actually going to revert that bucket policy, and I'm going to kick you all off real quick, just because the bucket policy was created in a particular way, and I don't want to like change that. Let's save those changes. So yeah, is this still invalidating? Someone says CloudFront refreshes in 24 hours. Yeah, but even with an invalidation, right, Skender? Let me Google real quick. CloudFront Invalidations. Europe users still seeing old code. I probably have to like be more specific about my cache durations for files and stuff using the object cache control header. Because I guess it depends on like how long my cache is set for my CloudFront distribution. By default, CloudFront caches a response from AWS S3 for 24 hours. The default TTL 86. If your request lands at an edge location and is served the S3 response within 24 hours, then CloudFront uses the cache response. This happens if you updated the content in S3. Use one of the following ways to push the updated S3 content from CloudFront, invalidating the S3 objects, which is what I did. Right, I did that. Invalidate the S3 objects. You can invalidate the Amazon S3 object by removing it from CloudFront distribution cache. After the object is removed from the cache, the next request retrieves the object directly from S3. Before you can run this process, consider the following. You cannot invalidate specific versions of an object that uses cookies or headers that vary the response. CloudFront invalidates all versions of the object in this case. Each AWS account is limited 1,000 free invalidations a month. Okay. When you create an invalidation, be sure that the object path meets the following requirements. The object path must be for individual objects, or the path must end with a wildcard star. For example, you can't run invalidation on a path similar to images slash star.jpg because the path isn't for an individual object and it doesn't end in a wildcard. To specify the path, you must exactly match the capitalization of the object's path. Invalidation requests are case sensitive to remove specific versions of an object based on a query string. Object invalidations can typically take 10 to 100 seconds to complete. Yeah, I mean, like this, it should have updated it. The idea is that CloudFront is this like network of servers that cache the files, right? So there's a bunch of servers in America, a bunch of servers in Europe. And when someone tries to access the index file, it's going to load that index file from my S3 bucket, and it's going to serve that to CloudFront, and CloudFront's going to keep hold of that for 24 hours is the default. But if you manually invalidate it, which I've done 3 times already, and I said invalidate everything, and this was in the docs, it said to invalidate everything, you do /star. That'll clear out the CloudFront distribution so that when someone requests the object, it'll cache the new version, which is exactly what I did. So I don't know why you all are still seeing it. Can you guys check one more time? Like if you just go to the newsletter, just let me know if it's still broken. I need to install a VPN so I don't have to like bother you all to do that. But let's just check this out real quick. Other than that, maybe there's an actual like S3 bucket that's in a different origin that I haven't even thought about. It can be public. Still broken. Crazy. This is something that like I never would have thought of. Like when you're doing things across the globe, it'll work on your end of the globe, but it won't work somewhere else. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the stream. I've been going for like it was an hour and a half now, and I gotta go. So hope you guys enjoyed watching. We got some cool stuff. We got some CI/CD set up, automatic deploy set up. We got some testing set up. Helped you all with some questions, and you guys helped me out with debugging this app. I'm sure I'll figure out the solution real quick. Like it's one of those things where I know just like I'll stumble upon some docs and I'll find like a quick little, oh, I gotta set this thing up to get it invalidated. Yeah, after trying Vercel and Netlify, like I wouldn't use AWS unless you're like at an enterprise personally. But yeah, like always, Whenever my newsletter is fixed, you can go subscribe. Don't know when I'll fix it. And I have a Discord that you're welcome to join. If you want to just chat with other devs or just try to get help if you're stuck on anything. Or sometimes I'm there and I'll answer questions too. It's just hard to keep up with all the comments. And yeah, I might stream again on Sunday around 9 a.m. Eastern. I don't know what time that is. We're in your part of the world, but keep an eye out. Press that bell icon so you'll get alerted when I stream. And yeah, have a good day, y'all. Happy coding. Enjoy your weekend.